Welcome everybody to the fifth episode of the Lobby of Hobbies podcast. I'm your host today, Jazz, and of course I got my co-host with me, Judge. Say what's up to everybody.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Definitely missed you guys.
It's been a minute, Judge. It's been a minute.
Absolutely.
So, people, today's title of this show is Beats, Rhymes, and Games. So, Judge, Beats, Rhymes, and Games, what do you think we're talking about today?
Well, I mean, if we talking about the BRG, we taking it down to my good old alley, down to the music alley. So, we definitely had some board games, some board games we was able to rock out on, which was really dope.
Nice,
we
yep.
also have music, because that's my favorite topic, one of my favorites. So it's part of my hobbies that we do. So very much excited of what's about to happen, what we're about to talk about. And, I'm just ready to get it started whenever you are.
Yeah, I think we promised the people in episode 1 that when we put this podcast together, that's one of the hobbies that we're into is music, and we were going to bring those hobbies, right? It's not just games. I know we talk a lot about board games, video games here, but we want to talk about music today. Specifically, today's topic is the genre of rap and hip hop music. We're going to talk about its influence in culture, its influence in the hobbies that we do, and its influence in games, because it has a little bit of influence in everything, right? So,
absolutely.
We even have a special guest for today's show. We're going to bring on a special guest, a good friend of Judge's. But before we even get into that, let's talk a little bit about catching up on what we've been doing. Judge, what about you? What have you been getting into lately in the past week, 2 weeks, since we last got together?
So since we last got together, still working on his music, still working on his website. So hopefully that drops next week. Anxiety is kicking in, so I am definitely anxious and just trying to get it done and make it look good. Also, all of my birthday gear finally came in. It took a while, but my birthday was July 3rd, and it's now the 22nd, maybe 23rd. But either way, I finally got my equipment. I'm super excited to be able to use it, so I'm just excited to be able to use that. And then we played a game or two. Between that time, I bought 2 games.
Nice.
So we building slowly but surely. This was a good month for me. So we just, as I build, I plan on sharing. So.
Well, that's the idea, right? Enter, share, and discover with the Lobby of Hobbies. So I know for me personally, I know last time we recorded, I think we got together with our wives. We played a game of Ticket to Ride. I know we introduced you and your wife for the first time to Ticket to Ride. For those that have never heard of Ticket to Ride, it's like the epitome of what you would call the gateway board game into modern gaming, right? So Ticket to Ride is a nice little, I guess it's kind of not really a set collection, but you're collecting these train cards, different colors, and you have this map of the United States. I have the generic basic version, which is if you're looking for Ticket to Ride, looking for something easy, you're trying to transfer from Monopoly into the hobby. That's probably definitely one of the go-to games to check out, try. But there's like a map with all these different colored train routes, and you have these destination tickets that you're trying to complete. It could be like from Seattle to New York, and you have to, with your trains, connect the route, connecting those 2 cities, and you get points for it. The person with the most points wins. It got pretty cutthroat, I think. There, I know your wife was playing the game standing up.
She was. Yep, she did.
It got to a point, but unfortunately, she did not win. Well, unfortunately for her, fortunately for me, I did win.
Of course.
But it's a fun game. I think if for those listening, if you have never tried it, if you listen to us for the first time or been listening to us for the past couple episodes, and board gaming hobby is something you're thinking about trying into, go to your local Walmart, go to your local Target. You can go to a board game shop. Trust me, Ticket to Ride. You can even order it on Amazon. It's one of those games that you can pick up. And if I remember correctly, Judge, I think you picked up the new Europe version for a steal at Target, right?
Yes, I did. Out here where we live at, there's a Target that had a bunch of games on sale. Of course, I FaceTimed you. And you gave me the good deal. So yeah, I definitely got Ticket to Ride, New York and Europe. So I got both of them. I know Europe has a a new a different, what is that called?
Mechanic, right?
The mechanic. There's the word.
Yeah.
Yep, different mechanic in it. So anxious to try it because, like I said, Ticket to Ride was fun. And for those who may not be gamers at all, coming from a purely consumer perspective, on my end, the game is very easy to play. You can literally open it and just shuffle the cards and start playing. It's not hard at all. You match the colors with the tracks. You have to have that many colors per track from one place to the next. The more tracks you put together in one sitting, the more points you get. And you just get around where you need to. You have secret places to be or destinations to go to. The longer the destinations, the more points you get. So it was really easy. We sat there, we learned it. It took us 2 seconds and instantly have fun. So something good to pick up for everybody.
Good. Yeah. So we played that. I think for me, I really haven't played many other games. I haven't really had much time with work and whatnot. I've been doing some housework, getting some things done. But I did go crabbing. My brother-in-law just had a birthday last weekend, so we went crabbing. We spent the day out on the water, rented a couple boats between 7 or 8 of us. We caught some crabs. We had this big crab boil. So we caught our crabs. We also bought some crabs prior to, some frozen crab legs, just in case we didn't catch anything. But we actually did good. We caught about like 35 crabs. So we had about 35 crabs. We had some Alaskan crab legs. We had some corn. We put all that stuff in a pot. We had crawfish. For those people that are big seafood fans, it was definitely a treat to be at. I know my wife is a big crab person. My brother-in-law is a big crab person, and he cooked it all up. We went outside on his back patio. We set up these fold-out tables, the old-fashioned, through the nice drape over the top of the table. And after we cooked it, pretty much we just poured everything on that table, and we just went to town. It was fun.
Nice.
But that's pretty much what I've been up to. Other than that, gaming, hobby-wise, activities, that's been it. So I think we should start getting into it. So we got our special guest today. All right. We're going to call in our special guest, Judge. Tell us a little about the special guest that you've brought on for today.
So this is a brother of mine. Used to rock out years. I honestly can't even remember when we first met because we've gelled together ever since. But we've played and he sings. He's a singer and a writer and a rapper. And he is an actor. He does it all. He loves to be in the entertainment field as well. And we also play video games together. So he's one of my main people that I play video games with, at night. So, man, I don't even know where to start. This man, he's a father of 3 kids. So he got both of us beat. A great singer, us being in church and being Christians, he's a churchgoer. He's a worship leader. He runs a band in a group at his church. And he's a really good dude, loving husband, great father. He really takes care of his kids and everything like that. So, I mean, it's a good brother of mine, man. Love him to death. Wouldn't trade him for the world. And it's my man, Mr. Blair Jackson. So,
Awesome.
we're going to call him in and, have him chat because we're actually able to play this game with him. So, I don't know. Do we want to expose the game yet or do we want to wait till he gets on?
And we'll wait till he gets on. But like I said, like Judge was saying, he alluded to, we did play a game. Like our goal is to introduce people that are new to any hobby in general, but the hobbies that we enjoy, but introduce them to some of the hobbies that we enjoy, and get them to the table, whether it be a board game, video games, going hiking, whatever it might be, and just to get their take on things, get their take on whether they enjoyed it, what they like about it, and for real, have them, not give us any politically correct answers, but just be real and honest with us. We had our wives on last episode, and our wives are brutally honest, right? They tell us how it is. They tell us how it is, and when we had them on, we said, the people that are listening, they want you to be real. They don't want the sugar coated answers. So the same thing we told Blair. We said, hey, we want to introduce you to our hobby, what we've been getting into, and we figured, we would find a topic, a game that kind of fit a topic that he might be interested in. And when he told him it was music, he was all game for it.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's get Blair on, and when we're back, we'll have Blair with us. Welcome everybody back to our special guest segment. So, Judge, we have your special guest with us, Blair. Why don't you introduce everybody to our special guest?
Yeah, so like I said before, y'all, listen. This devoted man of God, great father, great husband, one of the best rappers I know in the business right now. You know what I mean? Knew this brother for years, man. I honestly can't even remember when we first met because it's just been that long. We've just been rocking out for so long. But this is my video gaming partner right here. We done played in groups together. You know, I've been a musician, you've been a singer, so you know. But I ain't gonna say nothing less. I'm just introducing. Welcome, Blair. How you doing, brother?
What's going on? What's going on, man? You know, happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome, Blair. Thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem, brother. You already know. Gotta get my brothers on. Gotta introduce you to my peoples, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But yeah, we're just gonna get right into it. So
What's up?
we're not gonna get into exactly what we did yet. We're gonna wait till the end, for the one of the main reasons, for the game that we played. We're not gonna name that game yet. We're gonna keep that on the low. But let's get into it. We're just gonna do like we usually do. We introduce everybody that comes on. So we got a few questions for you. So you ready, Bing?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Shoot.
So so what kind of hobbies are you into, brother? Sure, let these people know.
Oh man, I think you stated in the intro. When it comes to music, but gaming is a big part of that, though, man. Gaming. If I'm not at work, if I'm not out and about, you could always catch me at home playing some type of game. That's just literally what has got me through life. And I really feel like wives all over the world probably want to shoot me, but I'm like, you'd rather me be at home playing a game than out running these streets.
You ain't lying about that.
I'm so serious, man. But literally, that's some of the hobbies. But like between that and music, writing has always been a passion of mine. And then just basically just being around music in general. I grew up in church. I grew up singing in church since I was like able to talk. I remember back when I was younger, my mom used to have me in the front of the church singing the alphabet verses from A to Z. You know what I mean? And it's that's just been something I've been doing. And then musically singing in front of everybody, congregations, and it just grew up. And it's just something that just stuck with me. So between music and gaming, those literally have been like my passions. You know what I'm saying?
Word, yeah. So you saying gaming, so you talking about video gaming, right? It's just so
Absolutely.
Correct. Okay, got you, yeah. So dope, yo. So and then, in that same realm, what is your experience in gaming, video gaming and board gaming? Like, do you have any experience in obviously board games? Because we know you got the experience in video games, but what is your overall experience with both?
I would say I'm more on the experience side of the video gaming. I mean, of course, your board games. Of course, I've done the Monopolies, I've done the Sorries, the Candylands, and the Parcheesies,
Got you.
Shoots and Ladders.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying? I've delved in a lot of those different games. Oh, and Clue. That's one of my favorite games to actually play. I can't really find the groups to like really sit down and really want to play Clue, but I actually still have a game of Clue. Literally, I ride around with it in my trunk of my car.
That's
and it's
crazy.
Always ready on deck. It's literally always ready on deck. So when y'all ready to play some Clue, that definitely could be something that I could provide. But I mean, outside of that, I know a lot of gaming, or should I say, like those tabletop games have gotten a lot modernized nowadays. But when it comes to just video gaming, man, I'm anywhere from sports to shooters to fighters. Fighters has probably been like one of my biggest passions growing up, and then I delved a little bit more onto the sports side of it. And then shooters. I mean, I love shooters, but I'm more on the RPG side of shooters. One of the games I'm really into heavily right now, Judge. You know, you and I we really bang hard on the Division.
Right. GMB.
You know, that's
shout out to the crew.
GMB. Shout out to them. You know, and that's basically what I've been doing. You know, but that, like I said, that's been the side I could say I know the most and I have the most experience in, because that's what I do the most. But I'm definitely open-minded to a lot of things. I just like games in general, you know.
Nice. Yeah, appreciate that, bro. Because I mean, and it's one thing that you said that makes sense. That kind of where I come from is like video games is more than just playing games. You know what I'm saying? Like it filled a void for me at that time, you know, to kind of go through whatever I was going through at that moment. And because it filled in that void and made me a better person, honestly, you know, it stuck with me, you know. And I think that's how we really clicked outside of music, because we clicked in music first and then we got in the gaming next, which was dope, you know. So now we back. Now we both are getting into the board game portion of it, you know what I mean? So and thanks to Brother Jazz. Thank the Brother Jazz over there.
Yeah. I do a little bit. I'm not gonna say.
All right, and last question we got for you before we expose this wonderful game that we played is with video games, what do you think are some of the top games that made an impact into the music culture, and more specifically rap/hip hop culture? Do you have any agenda that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Honestly, any sports game. Because if you think about it, right, any sports game that you see out there on the market, whether it be Madden, NFL football, NBA Live, NBA 2K, hockey, even baseball, any of those sports games, what the dope part about those games is that and I was speaking more for the hip hop side, so I'll lean more towards basketball and NFL. But what makes those games so dope is because they actually reach out to a lot of up and coming artists. They take a lot of up and coming artists and they'll basically say, hey, look, I got this, let's throw it in the game. And if you notice, and the people who actually play those games, they'll actually only hit, some of those songs are exclusive only to the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you'll actually be able to try to pull you know, some of them songs up on iTunes or anything. And I feel like that's how a lot of rappers sometimes even get their start. One of my favorite things is how, and this is so dope because Fabulous had this dope song on NBA Live 2003, and he basically made the opening rap when you turned on the game, and the opening credits to the game basically was him singing his rap song, and it was so dope. And I still remember that thing verbatim to this day. It was just crazy. One of the dopest things. But I really feel like the sports genre, mainly in particular basketball and football, like when it comes to Madden 2K and NBA Live, they really paved the way for a lot of hip hop artists to actually come into the game because they allowed those artists to actually put their music in the game. So I think that's pretty dope.
Nice.
Yeah. I think so too. Cause I think we were talking about it just before, like when it comes to like those sports games, like you said, live, you know, some of those games have their own tracks, their whole own soundtrack, pretty much. You know, like you said, all these up and coming artists that have been featured on some of these, you know, and I think we see it on TV too when it comes to like ESPN, you know, where the music, you know, pretty much becomes the culture of the sport. You know, you got the rappers got you know. They have these connections that they're building with these athletes. You know, you got athletes on the field pre-gaming with the big, you know, they got their Beats headphones on and whatnot, and that becomes a part of their culture within their own sport. And I think that perfectly translates right into video games, which you know, I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, it's so dope because that, like I said, at one point in time, NBA Live, when you bought the game, actually came with the second CD that was literally just the soundtrack for all the songs on the game.
That's I don't even think I had that one.
Well, yeah, so, you know, I wasn't in sports games at all, so y'all just pray for me. But
you were on the sideline, that's right.
Yeah, I was definitely on the sideline clapping. I was the one in the background, like. Yeah. But it's funny now because, you know, with the music that we got coming out, that was actually somebody actually suggested to me, like, yo, why don't you try to get some of your music on, these sports games? And I was like, you know what, that's actually not a bad idea. So that's something that I'm actually looking to. So, fingers crossed for the future to see if, those 2K21s, 22s, and 23s, you know what I mean? Hopefully, Corona willing, we can get some music on them things. You know what I mean? Shout out to Astro Music Productions.
Yes, sir.
So hopefully we can do that.
But Judge, that you were talking about, so we got sports games, but we were talking about some other games that weren't even sports games.
Very
that
true.
were kind of like at the culmination of like hip hop culture in the video game crossover. So
right.
what do because I remember one was in the beginning, I think it was in like 1995. I have it written down here. It was a Super Nintendo game. It was called Rap Jam, and it was pretty much like the NBA Jam style game where they played basketball. It was no fouls. It was just like, pretty much street basketball, but it had like Naughty by Nature. It had Onyx in there. It had like, I think Coolio. It even had like Queen Latifah, so it was,
right.
Yeah. Like, so I think that was when you started seeing that big crossover into video games, but you had the artists that were part of the video game.
Right. And I think that was really dope and it goes back to my favorite types of games, right? Fighting, first-person shooters, and RPGs. So for the fighting game that I noticed that was like really, really big for me, and this is right when I started college, actually, it was Def Jam, Fight for New York, and Def Jam Vendetta. Those actually had the artist in them. They were fighting, they were characters, and they were boss characters and everything. Yep. So their voices, I mean, they had their little ultimates and their little ultras. They called them blazons, and they had their little catchphrases from their older albums and little ad libs that they had on their infamous ad libs and stuff. So that's honestly where, and it wasn't necessarily the music though. It was just the artist, you know what I mean, which was a cool part. Mm-hmm. And I think the success of that game, even though it was short-lived for both games, it still made an impact on what hip-hop music should do, for that music industry should incorporate into video games, and into movies actually, because after a while, these not even just the hood movies, or the gangster movies, but some of the modern day movies now have like a lot of Kanye West, a lot of Jay-Z, in their trailers, what I mean?
Big name artists,
right. So it's just cool to see how the hip hop game is evolving, because it did start as a social political movement for us just to get our voices out. When I say us, I'm talking minorities, and at first he was like, yo, we need a voice, you know what I mean? And this was the best way to break the laws of music without getting arrested, because you can't break you can't get arrested for breaking musical laws, you know what I mean? That's actually what the definition of creativity is, just breaking the foundation and making a whole new one. So and I think the way that we've been moving musically has been awesome. I mean, obviously we have our ups and our downs, and some people try to take advantage of it and things like that, but ultimately if you keep that look on that positive end, you'll see that it's been a huge impact.
Yeah. And it's not even like when it comes to, oh, I'm sorry, Blair, go in. What you going to say?
Oh, no. I was going to say, just thinking about how, with the movie Black Panther, because you were talking about crossing over into movie genres, like how, the name is rolling off my tongue. Kendrick Lamar actually ran that whole entire soundtrack. You know what I mean? He actually did all the music and the score for Black Panther.
Sure did.
That was major.
Yeah, especially for a movie like that. Yep.
Yeah. No, you got it, Jess.
Yeah, when you have a movie like that not only just made a big impact when it comes to, the Marvel, the makeup of what Marvel actually is, but when it came to it culturally, right? I think that movie, making as much money as it did, making as much of an impact, but for minorities, for Black people in American society, but I think it made an impact for everybody full-fledged, because, I think sometimes we talk about some movies that are just B-list movies, right? That, you have people that are trying to make it, they'll have, a rapper or somebody who's famous just be in a movie, and the movie just becomes a B-list type movie. But to have something as big as Marvel, right, put together a massive movie such as Black Panther, as successful as it was, and, go in and get one of the top hip hop artists out there when it comes to Kendrick Lamar to write the score to that soundtrack. And they pretty much said, listen, we're going to make sure that we're going to invest all of our money into this movie, make sure it's one of the best movies that have been released in the Marvel universe, but also make sure that the music, the cinematography, that everything makes an impact just in culture in general, not just Black culture, minority culture, but American culture, which I think was huge for the movie industry, let alone but the music industry as well. So, I think to have those types of things, it's good for American culture, for it to take place, And I think it's a good thing that you brought that up, because a lot of people forget that type of stuff, like the intricacies of where culture plays and where music plays in the culture.
Right. And now it's funny, because now that we're on that movie topic, and I'm gonna just make this quick, is that the other movie that changed my entire life on how it was, shout out to Marvel again, was Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse.
Oh yes.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
Soundtrack was amazing.
Yes.
I got my girls every time they around, like, what's up, Danger? If they be on it, I'll be like, yes, that's my jam too. Like, so hey, right? It's just on point. Like, and it's funny because, that's on the hip hop realm, right? But when you go around, like, let's flip it, right? Shout out to Marvel again, Deadpool, because he breaks the fourth wall every which way, shape, and form. He has all these rock songs, all those old school rock songs, some 70s synth pop joints. Who else? Iron Man. He definitely did the rock stuff. The first movie had the whole, I forget what the name of that band is. Shoot, I'm actually mad now. Don't nobody kill me. But it was that one song. I think it's Aerosmith, actually. I believe it is Aerosmith. But he just walks in, bounce, bounce. Yeah, I was just like, ooh, that's nice. Like, it's just dope. So, like you said, music is very, very important. Like I was talking to you earlier, Jazz, like, music is one of the main pillars to create a culture, So on top of music, it is your belief system, language, food, and location. Those are the 5 things that you need. I believe there's 2 more. I think there's 7 total, but I can't remember the last 2 that create a culture, So music is very important. I think, a lot of people are underplaying it, but I love how it has evolved itself. Like, it's nothing that no one is doing. Everyone's creating, they're creating, they're doing what they love, and they're making that music, and it's just working for what it needs to do. Like, you don't need to fight to make the music work. That's just what music is.
Yeah. And I think it's like, you said, music it creates a platform, right? It creates a space for itself sometimes, right? Because music, we know that it brings people from a place where they can be depressed, they can be feeling good, and people listen to music that either gets them out of a place or keeps them in a place, right? And when we talk about video games and just before we even get into like the board games that we were talking about, but video games, music made such an impact that games were based on simply music, right? You had, like, if you go back in the day, you had like Pa Rapper the Rapper, the little video game that was like, you hit up, you hit down with triangle, whatever the circle is, you had to hit a combination of buttons, a sequence, to kind of get this score. And that started to translate into like things like Dance Dance Revolution. And you had not only hip hop music in there, you had pop music in there, and then that started to translate into like Guitar Hero, Rock Band. That there was a fusion of music, because you would think, oh, Rock Band is just straight up, it's going to be all rock music, but no,
it was.
I know there were people in the hip hop culture, like people who just listen. They don't even listen to rock music, but they had a set of Rock Band drums and everything in their house because, again, music brought people together. They had a collaboration between a hip hop artist and a band. And that one song was in the game, and people bought the game specifically for that one track, and that paved the way for games like DJ Hero, which was definitely more towards that hip hop.
Very true.
And pop music. So, music has always been making a staple when it comes to different things in life. And I think, that's just one of those things where it's never going away, right? It's always gonna continue to try to evolve. And then I think when it comes to us, when we talk about music later, I think some of us still have that. Like me, I'm an old school person. I love my old school hip hop, especially when we talk about that, right? But not to say that new hip hop is bad, but it's just, I have a heart that sticks to certain types of music, and I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's awesome how music translates. But what's cool is that we're seeing it translate over into board game industry now, which is crazy.
Right.
And I think that's kind of like when we're talking about playing this game and looking at this game that we're going to talk about to review, I said, Judge, we need to get a third person or fourth person in here to play this game. And we got to get somebody who has a music background, and preferably someone who's really doesn't come from a board gaming background, to see how do they take this game, like how do they receive this game, because could music bring people who are not part of a board game industry or a tabletop industry when it comes to modern gaming, and could that pull them into the hobby, and I don't know. I think in the next couple of seconds we'll start finding out when we start asking Blair some of these questions regarding it. So let's move. What do you think? We move on into it. What do you think? So today's topic game that we're going to talk about in the board game industry is called Rap Godz, Judge. This is one of those games that we wound up getting. I wound up gifting it to you for your birthday, right?
Yes, sir. I was definitely excited when I received that.
Definitely. And it was one of those things that that I know when you saw it, you're like, oh, hold up, let me check this game out really quick. What's this game about? And what's cool is that the game is published by Board Game Brothas, right? And the designer is Omari Akil. And it's even artists by Hamu Dennis, right? So you got minority designers, minority publishers that are putting this game together, which is pretty cool because you don't get much of that in the board game industry, right?
Right.
But when it comes to this specific game, I have never played a board game yet that had to, kind of centered around a theme of music. There are some other board games I think I've heard out there like Vinyl, but this one I think hit a genre that we can both relate to, right? I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop music, and when it said, the basis of this game is, hey, you can pretty much be your rapper and try and kind of make a come up, right? Try and make it in the music industry. I thought that's a pretty neat concept. What do you think about that, Judge?
No, definitely. When I seen it and I was like, okay, this is different. Let me see what it's about. You know me, if the box looks good, I'll read the back. The box was dope. I read the back. I definitely love the graffiti. The concept of the art was even cool. And, as I looked it up on YouTube and seen how the gameplay went, I was like, oh, this isn't hard at all either. It definitely was fun just because of that creative part of it. It's like, I think we made it even more fun by literally coming up with our own storyline, in the midst of whatever we got to play it. And it was really, we woke my kids up, but it's all good. You know what I mean? Like it was still hilariously fun. And I mean, I really did enjoy it. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like I had to sit here and prep like 3 days to play this game.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
thought that was pretty cool. So for those that are listening, the premise of this game, Rap Godz, is that pretty much you are a character. You have a rapper name, and you start off with, the way the game I think starts. You get two different rapper cards, and you look at their abilities, and you get to choose which one you want. And then you get two city cards, and you can choose which city your rapper represents. And basically, your premise is to try and be the person with the most points, but it's the person who I guess who gets the title of Rap God, right? So you're trying to hit these goals in your rap career, and you're trying to play these certain cards down. And depending on where which cards you play, it allows you to gain these records, right? Which the records is almost like the income in the game, right? Which is the point values. But you also have these 3 different tracks on the game that you're trying to increase, right? You have your rap skills, you have your street cred, right? And then you have and your swag. So you have to there's this balance, which is I thought was pretty cool when it comes to the strategy of the game, that you're trying to balance to how far can you get on your street cred, how far can you get on your rap skills, and dependent on how far you are on those 3 different tracks would determine some of the cards that you could play, right? Because you couldn't play a specific card if your rap skill wasn't, let's say above 10 or above 12.
Right.
And I think the game played over like almost pretty much 3 rounds, right? 3 errors or ages, but they were called albums, right? 3 different albums, and within those albums there was different tracks. But I thought it was a pretty cool game. But I think what the people want to know is this game something that is welcoming for new gamers? Is it one of those types of games? So why don't we get into asking Blair what he thought of this game? Tell us what you thought of this one, Blair.
I thought it was pretty interesting, actually. Being as a person who hasn't really experienced board games outside of the average and the regular type of game that you would play, this game actually opened my eyes to a different element. And it, like I said, it was a lot of fun, and it definitely is what you make it. It really was what you make it, and I feel like us adding that element of telling our own stories and giving the backgrounds and the voices and all that stuff, I think that really added that element to that game that brought it to life for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know for me, it was one of those things that I thought it was pretty, like Judge was talking about, it's quick to learn, right? It wasn't really hard. What do you think? Was that you found it, especially being new to the modern gaming realm, is that something that you thought it was pretty quick to grab onto those rules?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, for those of you that never heard of this game, I mean, it literally was, you get your card, and on your turn, you literally would draw a card and pretty much did the rules of whatever was on a card. It's like the game basically played itself. If you really think about it, the game literally played itself. All you had to do was just remember what cards you were taking and what cards you were going to play. And it really just played itself out. But for the most part, it was pretty, like I said, a pretty easy pick up and play. But like I said, I really feel like everything else came from what we added to it.
Yeah.
I know, Judge. What do you think what was your favorite portion of this game, though?
My favorite portion of the game was the first game, because I didn't get tore up as much as the second game. But no, I think my favorite portion was like seeing the abilities the rappers had, right? So each rapper had a different ability, and then each city had a different objective. So you could take a city from another rapper, if you completed their objective, and there were also those chains, rap chains, that you've seen, and if you completed those, you got more points. Grab the city, you got more points, so it's a point system game, but like those hidden agendas and seeing what abilities you can use and how to get away with certain things is really cool about it. So that's why I really like that there was a strategy to the game, and there was also, we could also be as creative as we wanted. Like I said, certain cards, you had certain things to do, and then within those cards you got points and or swag, street cred, or rap skills, and
Yeah.
then you just went around the board. So, you would play a card and it'd be like, the president heard your song and now you're now endorsed by the president, and then you move like, you move swag up 8 points and you get like 5. I mean, you move swag up 8 and then you get like 5 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it was cool, but if my first person, I remember I couldn't use any yellow cards. So they have yellow, blue, green, and red. Blue, green, and yellow were basically the same thing. They just, each color had a different faction, and those colors created more points depending on what some of your rap skills or excuse me, your city points were. So the first guy I couldn't use any yellow cards. And what I started to notice is a lot of the yellow cards had swag on it. So I'm looking at my guy, and in the first game, my guy had skills. He had dumb rap skills. He was conscientious, He was rapping about everything. He put Buddha and Jesus together and made it make sense. You know what I mean? But he ain't had no swag. That boy was broke. You know what I mean? So, but the second game, I just got tore up because, everybody wanted to throw some beef on me. So beef was the red cards, and that's where you can actually like challenge one or another rapper, your other opponent. And then you would take points from them. You would take like swag, street cred, or rap skills from them, in whatever the card said. So I remember one I got hit with all the time was baby mama drama. Like, evidently I have problems, and I got too many women. I think what's his name said it best. More money and more problems. So that's what happened. I got hit a lot with the beef, and then I lost points. But then whoever fought me would gain the points that I lost. So it was. I think that part of the game is what made it dope for me. Like, it was like, okay, we can still be creative, but there's still a strategy behind it.
Yeah. And I thought that I was surprised by the layer of strategy that was in this game. I think when it comes to teaching someone something that's new, sometimes like, oh, is it going to be strategic enough, or am I going to get bored? But to the layer of strategy, I think we talked about it when we played the first game. It was like we were so drawn into like building this like really cool storyline, right? And we acted that storyline out. I think Blair was talking about it, where we kind of became our rapper, and we were just playing the story out. And I thought it was a cool element to the game that we incorporated there, right? But afterwards, we were like, man, we were so built on the story, we kind of missed on some of the cards that we could have played because of the strategy.
Right,
there were some of those cards that, you play down because of the strategy would have been the better strategy there. But we played it, was like, oh, we'll play it, to who can build this cool story, which I think is a plus in the game, right? Because you can play the game kind of just, let's have fun. Let's just have fun and just build a cool storyline and act it out, play it out. Or you can be like, listen, I want to play this game with just a strategy element of it, and I'm going for the points. I'm just trying to be ruthless. But you can also have a combination of both, which I thought was pretty cool as well. But
what will be dope with that game is that, like, if there was, because it's called Rap Godz, right? You should basically put it together, and at the end of the game, like, how we played the end game, basically added the points up. We got everything that was supposed to be done. Okay, you did this, so you got that. You had, like, I remember my last guy that I had, one of his cards, I think he was like the cyborg or something like that. But one of his thing for him to get his additional points was I had to have the most yellow cards. So usually by me trying to play the most yellow cards, I'm actually going across trying to figure out what the story is. But the story was basically, some of it was a little off the wall, and that you wouldn't think it would be in your average everyday rapper's career. But I think this is my idea of what could be added, maybe as an added element to like a house rule or whatever. What if at the end of the game, you told everybody your cards, you gave the cards, and the ultimate winner, and there would be a bonus pot for whoever had it, and maybe you could wager the money or the points that you got and say that whoever writes the best rap song out of your story of your cards that you got would win or win that bonus. You know what I'm saying? But that would be something where you would basically play with like an audience and you have somebody judge or whatever, you know what I mean? Judge whatever the content was. But I think that would be pretty dope as an added element. Not only do you have to tell your stories throughout the game, but now you got to basically make up a rap and put it all together.
I'll leave that to you musically inclined people.
I think he just made the next. I think he just made the LOH series, the Lobby of Hobby series, the Rap Godz series, Battle for Life. That'd be dope though. I think that is a good idea. Like
he created his own expansion.
Literally, he just created his own expansion.
There you go.
You know, so I hope they listen. Rap Godz, if you're listening,
there you go.
That would be nice. Like even if it broke down to a verse or something, you know what I mean? And we just rock out on that'd be cool. Because I can't rap, but I'll figure it out. We make it work. I think that'll be the fun part about it, because it's like you have people who can't rap, people who can, and you'll hear the creativity go, and then you hear guys. It's like an exercise for some rappers too, because they don't. Not all rappers, the real ones, they actually practice and they study their craft. So, there's always exercises they do to kind of get their lingo going and to get their brain flowing. So that'll be a dope way to practice too. Just grab some cards, shuffle them, pick them. All right, you know what?
Yep. Because you think about it, it's 3 rounds, or it's 3
3 albums.
Each round had 5, basically like 3 albums. You know what I mean? And they had 5 tracks to them. So usually out of that, you taking 5 turns in each of the 3 rounds, which is 15. But a normal rap verse is 16 bars.
Right.
So I'm just thinking if you put it together, you just basically make a verse that was at least a 16 bar, and then you just go for what you know.
That's actually really dope.
I like that idea.
The expert musician edition. I'm down with that. I'm definitely down with that.
But I think with this game, it was one of those things that, like you said, it was it's easy. It's not much negativity you could say about the game, right? I know, if I was to look at this game, it's definitely one of those games that kind of catches my eye when it's on the table, right? The colors that pop, all those things. Yeah. I know that my big thing that when I look at games is, and it's not even that I'm colorblind, but my father's colorblind, right? So I know when it comes, it's just one of the things that makes me more conscious now when I look at games, and I'm like, okay, is this something that, someone who is colorblind could kind of pick up on? And at first I was like, okay, so it's telling me I need yellow cards, but like, what if someone doesn't see yellow or doesn't, they have, they're red, blue colorblind. But what was cool is that in the bottom portion of the card, there was those letters that would say, so there was the Y for yellow,
right.
It had the BL for blue, and I think there was the P for pink or the red or whatever the case may be. Yep. But, I thought that was pretty cool that it had that distinguishing element as well, especially for a game that was so colorful on the table, right? You have this board that's looks like it's just straight graffitied up. But what's cool is I think some people might think, hey, this looks a little bit too busy, but we looked at it. We took a double guess and double look, and we're like, no, this isn't too busy. It hits the element of what it needed.
It fits
right?
the genre of what it was going for.
Yes. Right. I think this is one of those things that one of those type of games that you can pretty much play with anybody. Granted, someone who is big into hip hop culture, or just big into music, I think they would appreciate this game. But I think what's even cool about this game is that it's one of those things that even if you aren't into that, if you're just into games in general, you could take something out of this game because there is enough layer of strategy in that element as well. But I thought it was cool. It's definitely those things that gives you a little bit of take back when it comes to hip hop culture in general. Like I felt like I was a rapper, right. Puerto Rican rapper, the next Puerto Rican rapper since Big Pun.
Yeah,
that was me.
You was going through some things in the game. I do remember that.
Yeah, definitely.
We all had some ups and some downs,
I had a lot more downs than ups though.
Yeah, man. Don't forget about that tax evasion. You know what I
mean? Well, at least somebody ratted somebody out.
Well, I didn't have the baby mama drama.
Yeah, you did.
I definitely didn't have that.
Right.
Oh, you didn't?
Right.
Yeah. No. You passed that on to me. That's what that was. A little
passed it on.
You sure?
But that's what happens when you have an electric car. You don't have baby mama drama.
That's true.
That's
what I remember. You did have an electric car. I remember you bought a Tesla.
That Tesla,
right?
You know,
that Tesla.
That Tesla made it work for you.
When you go out to the West Coast and you do the tours out there, they tell you about that green energy. But so we talked about how this game, you know, where it was, you know, where it sat with us, but where it also resonates with us as, you know, as people who are into music, right? People who are into hip hop. So let's start talking about the idea of music, right? So I know for me, I grew up big music person. And I was always listening, had my headphones on, you know, even it was those little wire ones, you know, with the little big, you know, foam cushions, you know, the ones that always bent. You know, my parents didn't have enough to, you know, get me some nice headphones. You know, I know when I was growing up, I had the little Discman that you used to walk around like this, make sure it didn't skip.
Yeah,
I didn't use it on the bus. But hip hop culture played a big role in my life, you know, but I know for me, I don't know about you guys, when you think about hip hop culture, where does it compare now to where it was when you were growing up? Judge, I'll start with you.
Okay, so just so my background for people who know, I don't think I shared this yet, but my family, my father was in the Army, so we moved every 5 years, literally, up until 2000. I was born in 1986, so just kind of give you a background of how the plethora of hip hop that I got, because I was actually raised off hip hop as well, hip hop and R&B during the time. So for me, I honestly believe that what hip hop was back in the day was way more authentic than what it is now.
Oh, most definitely.
You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
And I think that there was a lot of because what I think is this was the beginning of hip hop anyway. So like with that real deep, thick, heavy, like I'm a break everything down to you, and you're gonna know the real nitty gritty of what's going on. You know what I mean? Like this is what's happening in these streets. It wasn't to boast. It wasn't to show off. They were really rapping of what they struggled with, you know, out there in real life, because people did not know, you know. And I think music, like I said, music it can get that viral that fast. You know, it's something that's very contagious and something that you can't not allow music to come in. You can't reject music. You know what I mean? Like once you hear it, it's in you. That's it. You know what I mean? So I think that's what it was for me. It was like, it was real. You know, it was real. It was authentic. Those people who were rappers and those singers, they were singing about real stuff that they've been through, things that they, you know, that they dealt with. And like now, I can barely understand half of these rappers right now. You know, there was a study that went out, and they studied, you know, some of these, like what they call mumble rappers, and it was like they literally rapping on a third grade level. This third grade level, like language, like English.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was just like, I'm too conscious to be into that. Now, some people like that. Cool. Not even going to bash it, because everyone has their own taste, you know? But I do feel like, even from what the stuff they talking about, like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm a thinker. So I need a storyline. I need a plot, you know, I need a twist. You know, I need to know what's going on in your era. Like, so, you know, a lot of the rap back in the day is what did it for me. You know, it gave me that. It was real music. You know, that music, it was very musical. The music made sense, which, you know, me being a musician, that's one of my main things. The music made sense, and it actually fit with what the rappers were rapping about in that hip hop. It was all that, like jazz. It was the same thing. Like jazz was a derivative of classical music, you know, of the disco, you know, because back in the day, minorities did not like disco music, so they made their own, and that's when they started buying their own turntables, and they did what on the records told you not to. It was like, please do not skip, you can damage. So they said ifrit, and that's when all that happened. You know what I mean? And it was literally a revolution for minorities to express themselves in a different way, breaking a set of rules where we wouldn't get arrested for. You gotta go back to that every time. But yeah, I think yeah,
Right.
back in the day, real music. Now I think it's a lot of cats. They just rapping it because they want the money. You know, some people rapping it for the money, some people rapping for the truth. But I think we had a whole lot of more truth spitters back in the day than we do now.
Agreed. What's your take on it, Blair?
I mean, I couldn't agree with Judge. I agree with him wholeheartedly, because back in the day, my era of music, just listening to hip hop, people were rapping because that's like you said, that's what they were going through. You know what I mean? If there was a battle, it was a battle. They literally put it on wax or vinyl, however you wanted to put it back then. They laid the track down, and it was a battle of the lyrics. That's what it was. One of the classic battles that I was able to witness was the Jay-Z and Nas battle. You know, just listening to them lyrically go back and forth, and that's all it was lyrics. Now, mind you, some of the stuff they were talking about each other, yeah, probably it's true. But at the same time, they left it on the vinyl, and that's what it was. They left it there. You look at the people nowadays, you got artists that are actually going through, and like you said, you got these mumble rap generations, and they doing everything, and then they're causing real beefs, real dramas, trying to say they walking in their videos holding guns, doing this, that, and the third, and they're doing it more for the clout than for the actual hip-hop. And that's not, you can't even call that hip-hop. But the crazy part is that, like, there's nothing else out there, so they're taking over the genre of hip hop and is being classified as hip hop. So you need to get more of these rappers out there to actually put lyrical content together. Because see, when it came to me, I got inspired. Like, I love to rap. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you I'm not a rapper, but I love to rap.
Lies.
And every time every time Judge plays, but the crazy part is that every time Judge makes a track and I'm in the studio with him, the first thing that comes to mind is the rap. And I'm like, yo, oh, I could write something crazy to this. I could do something crazy to this. But it's just the way I am, because I've always growing up listening to rappers like, you know, like Jay-Z, Biggie, like Fabulous, Drake, and I'm more of the punchline. Like, I like to hear punchlines. Let me, what makes sense? Why did you say that there? And what's following up with that? When you get to the people nowadays, it doesn't make any sense. And I think it's because now money is coming more easily for them, and they don't have skills. They just know people that have money that's able to put them out there and able to put them on the radio and able to do more things than the rappers back in the day, where you had to have a crazy story and had to have crazy skills in order for you to even get airtime on the radio. I think a great movie that actually kind of inspired the hip hop generation, if you really think about it, was the movie Brown Sugar. If you think about the movie Brown Sugar, where Mos Def actually played a rapper called Cabby, and he was a real lyricist, you know what I mean? And Tay Diggs actually played not the producer, but kind of like the agent type player, where he was working for a record. He was an A&R. So basically he was working for a record company. And what happened in there, he was basically forced to produce trash. And, you know, they had the guys, the two white guys, they were called Ren and Tin. The black and the white guy, and they were called the Hip Hop Dalmatians, but they weren't. It wasn't, yeah, you know. But it wasn't good music that they were producing, and it got to the point where Tay Diggs, his character, was just like, "Nah, I can't do this. I gotta be out." So he took a shot, made his own production company, and took on Cabby. But one of the things he did was in order for them to get onto the radio, he actually pretty much camped out. Well, he didn't camp out, but they was back there every day at Hot 97 trying to get them to play that record. And that's the kind of grind and the drive that it was took for music back in the day to resonate, to actually get out there. You had to have good content. But nowadays it's not about that. So I feel like it's lost its oomph when it comes to a lot of things. But I will still to this day bang my old music. And like I said, when it comes to my Biggie and my Jay-Z and my uh Nas and my you know what I mean, those artists that really had that lyrical content in it, that's what I would still bang to this day. So that's what it is for me. You know what I mean? Between then and now, I loved it then and I hate where it's at right now. But I believe that it still can make a comeback.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know for me, like, being an 80s kid, but, at the height of hip hop for me was that early 90s and even into the early 2000s, but you said like, Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z, while I did listen to my Jay-Z, like for me, he's not even in my top 5, and not that he's not good, but because I personally have a better, I have a certain preference for certain artists that I would put in that right spot ahead of him. But do I think am I one of those people like, oh, Jay-Z doesn't deserve? No, I think he deserves to be there. But for me, he's just not there. But like you said, there are those artists that you said that resonate with you, right? It's the content, the lyrical content. It's what they put out. Rap was poetry. It was right. Another form of poetry to put out there, and tell your story. If you think of poets, right, just they put their heart on the paper and they're expressing themselves through their poetry. But that's how it was for rap artists back in the day. Their art was put on that paper and those rhymes and those bars. And it's like, this is me. This is who I am. This is real. You may not like it, but this is where I've been. This is where I'm coming from. And this is the struggle that I've gone through. And I think for me, that's growing up, hip hop had a much more of a negative connotation than it does now, right? Now it seems like it's just widely spread, right? It's like, oh, we just accept it. We accept hip hop. But I think it's because it's, like you said, it's not as gritty as it once was. It doesn't talk about the realness of what true hip hop and rap culture was, the struggle that they had to go to, the injustices that they went through, those types of things. Now, did it have its negativity? Is it one of those things that you said, I was the one with my headphones on and my mom's like, what are you listening to? And I was like, oh, no, let me put something else on. But, I gravitated to that music because, it was popular, but it told the story. But, did it have those things that I should not have been listening to? Most definitely, right? But for those artists, that was real. And we noticed that as the music started to evolve, it started to hit more of that, let's just start rapping about this and girls and getting money and, getting more girls and getting more money. So it changed. It took a turn. Did it take a turn for the worse? I personally think it did. Are there those rappers out there now that are starting to, try and bring back the heart of what hip hop truly was, back when, Kool Moe Dee and Grandmaster Flash and all these guys were trying to bring up within the culture, when our parents were listening to the beginning of what, hip hop and rap really was, when it was being bred and born and, in the streets of New York. And that's where it's from, from the boogie down Bronx. And people will argue, but that's where it comes from, and, when you have those guys in KRS-One, who were the pioneers of what hip hop was and where it started to evolve from, we don't have that, which I think, is something that's missing in culture. And I honestly think some of these kids who listen to what they call rap, they don't really experience, they don't have never really experienced what real rap is, And when we put and when we're busting, putting our tracks on from back in the day when we were listening to, the first thing is like, oh, I like this. What is this? Who is this? I'm like, if you don't know who this is, then you don't really know what true hip hop is.
Right. Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly. I think it's just they what happened now is these guys, they tried to create a formula, right? Because they heard what everybody was talking about, but they didn't realize what the magic in the music was, the fact that they were testimonies.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And they ended up perverting it. Like you said, now it's just repetition. It's just like say the same thing 18 million times, or like it's just 2-3 words in a verse. You know what I mean? And it's just it just literally it just makes me like, why? Like but it is what it is, and that's one of the main reasons why I decided to start a production company to make music, because I do feel like we as a nation have lost what real music is. There are some artists that are still doing it, that's pushing forward and really putting forth that effort. And it's just a matter of like, listen, if I can contribute, like, why not? You know what I mean? Instead of wasting my energy on complaining about what it could be, why not I just put my energy into making it so that it can be?
Yeah.
So
I agree. I completely agree. But I know we have some favorite rappers list. But before we even get into that, I wanted to talk about something really quick, because all three of us as Christian men, a lot of times, I know when I first started coming up in the church, I didn't grow up in the church, but again, everybody's tied to music. One thing I used to miss was like, where's my hip hop music? You mean I come to church, I can't listen to my hip hop music? And I remember in the beginning, people were like, oh no, there's Christian hip hop music. Why don't you check this out? And I used to listen to it. I was like, oh, this is kind of corny. Like
what is it? Garbage.
Like it had gotten to a point where I'm like, I understand the message behind it, but like the message to me didn't seem authentic. It seemed like it was pasted in there. Now were there some authentic rappers and whatnot? Yes, but I think for me personally, I think Christian hip hop, if we were to talk about Christian hip hop, has kind of taken a different turn. I think it's gotten better, where authentic mainstream hip hop has gotten worse. What do you guys think?
Same. I agree.
When you got guys like Lecrae and those guys over at Reach Records, they're putting out bangers that are hitting on the regular radio.
That's my favorite team of all time, by the way. But yeah, but go ahead, B. I know you had something to say.
No, I was gonna say I kind of feel like when they got out of their own box is when I really feel like Christian hip hop got to where it should have been before where it is right now. Right. And what I mean by that is that you had people that and I can only express off of the artists that I listen to or that I experience with. Like personally, I've met T.Y.'s, who's a Christian rapper, and Praise One, also another dope Christian rapper. By listening to them personally and just listening to their albums and diving into how they were, I feel like they were going and they were basically still spitting the word inside of their verses, and it made it dope. And it was because they were doing it over dope tracks, and their lyrical content popped, and they had the punchlines and they had it in there, and it was cool. But then you switch over to somebody like a Lecrae and then Andy Mineo, where they weren't necessarily every other bar saying something about Jesus, or every other bar they wasn't saying something about you going to hell if you don't go to church. You know what I'm saying? They basically were speaking about life and how their influence on what they're doing with their life and how they're positive and just doing things and just being inspirational. I feel like that's really when it got to where I'm like, yo, this dude is crazy. Like Andy Mineo was probably, like I said, I was like, wow. When I first heard him for the first time, I said, yo,
was a problem.
Yeah, he is a whole problem. He literally is on a whole entire different planet when it comes to this gospel rap thing. Then I really, when I found out him and Lecrae was at the same camp, and I'm like, oh, wait, what? Lecrae? I seen this dude on Sway in the Morning, and I'm like, this dude is a Christian rapper? What? Hold up. And it, like I said, it literally swayed me, and then it made me understand, like, just because you're a rapper don't mean you can't be a Christian. And that's basically what they are. They're Christians that rap. You know what I'm saying? And that literally just changes and it breaks the mold, and it kind of just makes it feel like, all right, yo, I could do all this. I don't have to curse. That's basically all they're doing. They're doing everything just not cursing. If you really think about it, and they're just talking about worldly things, doing everything in the world, but they're just not cursing, and they're just making it dope and making hip hop dope. So the fact that I can play you in my church and literally bang you loud and hard in my church, and people still be inspired to follow God because that person that's rapping about him is following God. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I love, man.
Right. And to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, shout out to T-Wise, because I actually used to play for T-Wise. Hey, holler at me. I actually played trumpet for him, and like being a part of his camp and seeing you know, how they produced the music, because I was able to see like how they made it and everything. Like T-Wise was a, you know, man of God. And this is a local guy that we're talking about. He's from Philly. Same thing with Praise One. These are all local artists from the Philadelphia area. And I mean, yo, these dudes were monsters back in the day. They were the top 2 Christian rappers in the area, period. You know, and I might as well say tri-state area, because they were that good. I mean, T-Wise, we had gigs everywhere, every weekend. We were always somewhere. You know what I mean? And if we didn't, we were rehearsing like crazy, like as if we were going like playing at the Dove Awards or something. You know what I mean? So it was seeing him live that lifestyle as well as rapping made it that much greater for me, because I actually got to live in the experience of him being who he was, you know, who he said he was. Praise One's a little bit different because I didn't get to play with him, but I did know his band and know his crew and kind of hung out with him every now and again. He is now no longer a Christian. For those who didn't know,
Frager.
Yes, he is now James Frager, and he denounces that there is a God in every which way, shape, and form. He's all about holisticness or something like wholeness, and you know, your body is a whole and you need to take care of it type thing. But a long story short, when he was out, he was definitely on point. I did love his rap, and I forgot, but I actually produced a song with an old artist that I used to play for, and he was featured on it, which was really dope. So, you know, like I said, got to meet him, got to talk to him, and cool dude when he was saved. You know what I mean? But not even saying that he's not, but just in the reference of in his mindset, you know what I mean? But yeah, like this camp. So first of all, Andy Mineo, period. Just point blank period. That's all I gotta say. When I heard this guy, right, I think, Jazz, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we go to a concert and did he open up for Israel at one point, or did we go to see him?
We went to see him as the lead.
Okay, so
he was the headliner.
So that means that was before this then. So there was a time, I don't remember what, I think this is right when he came, he changed his name from MC Light or NC Light or something like that.
Yeah.
To Andy Mineo. So when I heard his first stuff before he changed his name, I was like, okay, nice, I get it. And then literally when you go through his albums, they evolve like what these industry hip hop artists evolve. Like, it's scary how good he gets every album, right?
Yes.
And then his production team, which I would love to be a part of one day. If you're listening, Andy Mineo, shout out to me. Please help me out. You know, is so amazing. You know what I mean? And going back to the camp he's with, Reach Records. Reach Records is all under Lecrae. Mind you, Lecrae is an artist under his own label. So he owns the label. He's an artist. And he's everywhere. You know what I mean? And Lecrae's music is crazy too. Like, I mean, but for whatever reason, Andy Mineo stuck out to me more because, like, his lyrical content is like what Blair said. It was like, it was always inspirational, but his play on words was amazing. His his delivery was on point. Like you can tell he lived what he rapped about. And it goes back to what we talk about, like that authenticity. Back in the day, that's what I'm attached to. But the one thing that I learned is that I feel like in church in general, right, we have two, and it's only two demographics. This is a lot of ways that churches are viewed now: old and young. So with that, I feel like it's doing the exact opposite, which is the music is getting better in the hip hop, the Christian hip hop realm, but there's way more people not liking it because it's so different and it sounds so close to what's going on right now. With vice versa in the secular hip hop scene, it's getting worse and people are loving it more. You know what I mean? And the thing that I just wish that we can just get together and just understand is like, listen, at least they talking about something positive. It's not like they're talking about women or they're misrepresenting, what the struggle is. And even if they talk about selling drugs or whatever, it's because they went through it. You know what I mean? I think Lecrae speaks about that often in some of his stuff. He's like, he used to be that dude. Like, I think one of his songs where he didn't have his dad and he was about to go do this one deal, and it actually, he would have died if he did it because it was a setup, and somebody pulled him to the side and kind of and pulled him in. It's like, yo, listen, I need you to check this guy out and talk about God. And he talked about that whole transition of how he met God, and it was so awesome to hear his testimony in a creative form, and much respect to him for doing that, because I mean, it really was frowned upon. Another group of guys, Social Misfits, those guys are another crew that are just killing. And I seen an interview with them. I forget who they interviewed with, but they was breaking down how one of the members was a PK, a preacher's kid, and he did everything he could to not be under that, as some preacher kids do. Like, they just like, all right, listen, I ain't all that. Like, you can't be all that right now. And he didn't want to live up to that. So, he was locked up. He did all this stuff, and he was like, listen, and once he stepped out of the box of, which is what a lot of Christians think is, God is the four white walls, bread, and the Bible. You know what I mean? After they got out of that, where it's like, listen, you live life. Like, let's take those experiences and apply them, to what being saved is and what living your life, modern life, is now. Because that's how the Bible breaks down a lot of these situations. They break down it in their modern times. That's what their modern times were. And, you hear these stories and you're like, oh, they made it out of this. And I'm like, but, prime example, and then I'll leave it here. David in the Bible was labeled to God as a man after his own heart. But David didn't just do great things. He disobeyed God a number of times. You know what I mean? He took a census when he wasn't supposed to. The worst thing I ever heard him do was sleep with another man's wife, got her pregnant, and because of that, put her husband on the front line of the war, got him killed, lied to the wife about it so that he can sleep with her again, had a baby. Then God said he was going to kill the baby, killed the baby, and then still blessed him with the woman and gave the whole truth out and still had another baby, which was Solomon. So I'm like, and then God still calls him a man after his own heart. But we over here tripping, or some of us over here tripping because, hip hop music is like the devil. I'm like, if you only knew, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's crazy, and I mean, as you can see, this is one of my passions, because when I tell you, I was raised off of hip hop first before I got into church heavy. And when I got into church heavy, I learned a lot, but then as I backed off and started living my life, like in college and everything, I really realized like a lot of the truths that were taught to me, I had to unlearn because they were based off of like principles in the centuries ago. I'm like, we have cars now. Like, I ain't worried about nobody's donkeys. You know what I mean? I ain't got no sheep. You know what I mean? Like, I know people. You know what I mean? So it's a thing, and I love all my Christian brothers and sisters. I just want everybody to be aware, man. Listen, Jesus met everyone where they were. That's the one thing I loved about it. You know what I mean? Like, he met everywhere I looked. He showed people the love that he had for them, and then he said, "I love you," to confirm what he did. And that was one of my biggest things. Like, I take that as I need to be that, because he said, God says, be a man of your word. So in order to be a man of your word, I'm going to do it first. So then when I tell you I love you, you know that I'm not lying. You know what I mean? So it's just one of them things, man. I just wish we could really be good. And I know, we live in a world where there's so much going on. Even now, Corona's happening right now. I mean, random murder hornets, I don't even know. Like, I don't know. It's just all over the place. But by God's grace, for the ones who can listen to this podcast, you're here. You're okay for now. You know what I mean? And let's keep praying. We're gonna keep praying. We're gonna keep reaching out. And if look, we here. Point blank period. But let me shut up before I go too far. Which is probably already too late for that, but you know what I mean.
So we talked about some games. We talked about some culture, right? And hip hop. Right. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. 5 top artists, hip hop artists on everybody. Let's start with the special guest, Blair. Blair, your top 5 hip hop artists.
Bring them in, Bishop.
Ooh, man. Only 5?
Right.
Man, I guess. You know what? The reason why I say it like that is because there's so many people that I listen to for like different reasons and different things, because they give me different. You know what I mean? It's like a rap. It's like a rap Bible. Like, if you were to look in the Bible, like, I need to feel like a pick me up. All right, I'm going to go to this book. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, but rappers that are really like my go-tos, if I'm really trying to go, like, all right, so like I stated, and this is in no particular order. This is just basically how they're coming into my mind. Biggie, of course. Jay-Z. If I'm really trying to bop, I might even go back to DMX.
Hey, Anthem Central.
Right. You see what I'm saying? If I'm really, you know what I'm saying, if I'm really trying to vibe, but then be on that sing rap tip, then I'm going to throw in some Drake. You know what I mean? And then that 5th one, it could be a number of people, man. But if I literally just had to throw one in there, let's just throw Kanye. I'll throw Kanye in there, just to give it. But if I had to, and then let me just throw in like 2 honorable mentions, and they're going to be completely left field. But I'm gonna say, honorable mentions, hip hop wise, I'm gonna just say, just because of lyrical content and like cadence, Cannabis.
Oh wow.
And it's, I don't know. But like I said, I really wanted to say Cannabis. I feel like I just wanted to throw him in there only because of how he influenced a lot of my rap writing back in the day. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically where I stand with the list. And it's like, I feel like it could have been, and then if you ask me tomorrow, that list probably going to change. You know what I'm saying? Just literally based off of who I really, really like to listen to. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's it. That's what I got.
All right.
So am I up next?
Yeah, go ahead. You got it, brother.
All right. So I think, like, for me, like I said, it's always been, it could fluctuate, but I think it's always been, for me, Biggie, Nas, and Tupac right at the top.
Okay.
And I think it's always been, I think Tupac, it's just something about his poetic delivery and how he's always been. He doesn't, I say he doesn't bang as hard as some of these other guys, but but I think Nas, because Nas is that, that conscious rapper. His delivery, the way he puts rhymes together, the way, his eloquence and how he raps is just something that's always captivated me. And then I always say one, and it's not because he's Puerto Rican, but it's always been Big Pun. Like, the Big Pun's lyrical delivery is one of those things that, like, I was just captivated by how fast this dude raps, but how his delivery was always on point. The way he put words together, but the way the lyrical content came. Now, granted, this isn't, I'm not telling the 15, 16, 17-year-olds to go listen to some Big Pun, because that's one of those things that I'm like, grow up, get at least 18, you might have to get at least 21 before you hear this to something. But it was just something. It was just something about his lyrical content and his delivery, and how he came. And I think sometimes he got overshadowed because of, the other great rappers that were around him. It was Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas at that time that were like the three like pinnacles of hip hop. And I think sometimes he got overshadowed. And, do we know, could he have been better? Has, such a short life, we don't know. But I don't know. I think I'd probably throw in DMX as my fifth. I think that's one of those guys that's like, I think sometimes he does get overshadowed. Not the fact that there's people who do love, DMX and who he was, and like you said, Mr. Anthem right there. But, I think DMX is one of those rappers that he made a statement. And when his voice, the way when he came on the mic, you knew he was going to drop something, and you were just captivated.
It's going down, baby. It's going down.
You just listen. But, if I had to think of like honorable mentions, I don't know. I think of like Jada Kiss, Mos Def, Common, those are those guys that you can't forget, I think like Eminem, and I look at Eminem as one of those people who, and not necessarily because of that's who I was super big into, but because of what he did for the rap game as a whole, right? In bringing in people who didn't look like the typical rappers, so you got to give him credit for that. Now, do I think he's up there with some of these guys? No, but he's one of those guys that when it comes to naming, he made a statement for the game, but if I was to give you my all-time favorite rap group, it would be Wu-Tang Clan. That was, I grew up listening to Wu-Tang a lot too. So, but yeah, but Biggie, Nas, and Tupac, that's my three right there. Got you.
So, in my defense, so this how I rated the rappers that I chose, because I feel like I have to explain this because I'm very picky when it comes to listening to music. And one thing that I've learned is because we moved back and forth everywhere, we were, in the military and, living in different forts in the area. It was like, I really didn't get that hood lifestyle until I came to Jersey. You know what I mean? I was in high school at that point. You know what I mean? So it's like, I already had a love for music before I got here. So it was like when I started listening to, other music, I was like, I ain't really feel, I wasn't really feeling it because my parents never exposed me to it, which was fine. I honestly don't think it was nothing wrong with it. But because I'm a musician, I'm always listening for musicality. So overall, the music's got to sound just as good as you rapping. You know what I mean? The lyrical content and the context, I'm always listening to figure out, like I said before, I need a story. I need to know what's going on. I want to be able to think about what you're saying and how I can apply it to myself, one, and then like your usage of the words and like, your wordplay. And then the versatility, like, can you go do you sound the same on every single track? If you do, I can't rock with you. You know what I mean? You know, I want to be able to hear different styles. I want to hear you stretch yourself out to be more of a professional. You know what I mean, in that aspect. And then the other one's vocal tone, because for whatever reason, there's certain rappers I just can't stand. Like, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm probably the only person that will say this. I could not get with Jay-Z back in the day. I could not. And it was just because of his tone. And I'm like, bro, can you switch it up sometime, please? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he never really did. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just weird. But still respect the man, because, you know, not even just the fact he's making his money, but he makes good music. Like, for those who don't know, like, doing my musical research, come to find out, he's never written down lyrics. He's never written down lyrics. He'll hear the track, give him like 5 minutes, and he'll go in the studio and knock it out in one take. So that was his, and respect for the 444 album, because that's exactly what that was. And that, when I listened to that track, that album did everything that I just stated. Like, for that rate, that was a good album for him. I love that part, because it did. He went to vent rapping. That's what I call it, because he really just was. He didn't take the approach like he did back in the day, and I like that. But so top 5, here we go. First on my list is actually Andy Mineo. Yeah. So he top, because that boy's a problem, right? His music is amazing. He raps different types of styles. Like, you can hear the difference in his delivery in certain tracks.
Definitely.
The other one, we got my man Kendrick, conscious rapper. Boy, he be spitting some truth. Boy, he be spitting some political truth and making it sound good, man. And he has, his band is actually really, really crazy, because he has a bass player called Thundercat from out there in Cali. And Thundercat's a big jazz, like a jazz bassist. Like, not a jazz bassist, but he is a dope bass player, period. And when I tell you the music that he comes out with for himself as an artist, and he combines it with Kendrick, oh my gosh, his music is amazing. So, right, that's the other one. J. Cole got to go on that list, obviously. You know, right, because Kendrick and J. Cole, they're not the same person, but they definitely have the same type of styles, and I just love that their styles in their content. I also have Busta Rhymes on here, because, you know, I love Busta, yo. He was my dude. You know what I mean? He rapped fast, he rapped slow. He was definitely animated in what he was saying. And, like, as I grew older and started still listening to his music, it evolved for me. Like, as I was listening, I was like, yo, I didn't peep that this time. And, like, I'm always learning something new when I listen to his music, even his old stuff. You know, so I thought that was really dope. And that's when he had hair and was skinny. You know what I mean? Now he ain't got no hair and he just all muscle right now, you know. So but yeah, he was another one. And then my last guy right now, and he can fluctuate between top 5 and top 10, is Joyner Lucas. Joyner Lucas is another one. He's more of an aggressive, angrier version of Kendrick Lamar. So he's like Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, and Eminem put together. Lyrical content wise, delivery, and his music is crazy. So those are my top 5. Those cats right there. And I mean, like I said, man, listen, their albums are crazy. I think there's only one person I think I went through an entire album without skipping, and that was Andy Mineo's. That was before, I think it was Arrow. And the other one that came out a few years ago, I can't remember the name of it. But
Superhero.
That's the one I bought the shirt. I got the case. I got everything. I remember that, because that's when we went to. That's when the one we went to. Superhero one, and there was his second and third album after that. Amazing. So, you know, yeah, those are my 5. And then I do have honorable mentions, and just because out of respect to who, you know, what they've done, and knowing some of the guys that play with them, because those guys are killing. Common, Talib, who I love his stuff too. I actually got to meet him once, and that was amazing. This boy, and he was DJing at a gig. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun vibing out with him. That was dope. And then Nas was definitely on my honorable mention too, just because Nas was just it. And he's one of the ones that doesn't necessarily fit all my criteria, but still, just out of who he was and just what he did, I'm with him. I rock out with him. Nice. So that's my top 5.
Nice, like that list.
I do like that list. Definitely.
Yeah, just don't hate me. That one. For those who are listening, don't hate me. Listen, we all love here. But yeah, man. I mean, listen, I appreciate you, B, for coming out, hanging out with us this podcast. And thanks, brother. Appreciate you. I'll catch you on the division in a little bit. if you up for it.
Look, yeah, it definitely, absolutely. Well, look, I appreciate y'all for having me, man. This definitely was an honor to be a part of this, man. Any support I can give, I'm here. And as far as the division, I should be still up. I know I got a packed day tomorrow. Speaking of music and rap and all that, my nephew's graduation party is tomorrow, so he's gonna have his people over here, and there's going to be mumble rap. There's gonna be like a mumble rap symposium going on outside. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna be here, and I gotta be on a grill. So yeah, but like I said, I'm down to run. You know what I'm saying? At least a mission or 2. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Blair, for coming through. We appreciate it. Definitely an honor to have you with us.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks again, y'all.
All right, bro.
All right, man. We'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, man. Yes, sir.
All right. So, want to give thanks again for Blair coming through. Special guest on the Lobby of Hobbies podcast, episode 5. All right, beats, rhymes, and games. Like I said, this podcast. I want to thank everybody for coming through. We appreciate it. Again, our goal is to have people just answer, share, and discover what we're into. Like we had Blair come on, who's not into, very new to the modern board game and hobby, and opportunity that he was able to check out something that we enjoy and have a good time. We hope as well that you guys can find something as well. Whatever hobby it is that you guys, we like to hear from you. You can catch us on anchor.fm/lobby of hobbies. And if you want to leave us a message, it's the same, anchor.fm/lobby of hobbies/message. And you can leave us a voice message. We'll get back to you. You can drop us an email at thelobbyofhobbies@gmail.com. Judge, anything you want to leave with the people before we head out today?
Man, look, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. I know this is a little longer than expected, but listen, you guys hung out and stuck it through with us. We utterly appreciate it. We thank you for just, taking our little bit of insanity, and helping us make fun of it. So, man, listen, we really appreciate you guys for listening, for real. It means the world to us. And that's why we do it. We do it for you guys, because we know what it is, and we know what's going on right now. So we just trying to spread love as any way we can. And, right now, this is the best way to do it.
Awesome. Judge, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Until episode 6. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.